I was on Reddit the other day watching this terrifying video of a square pipe mill, and it led to a very interesting and common interaction here. Very first comment, tube, but you won't catch me being pedantic. It led to a very interesting and common question. Wait, what is the difference between tube and pipe? In this case, there's no such thing as square pipe. This is tube. So let's dive into it and really understand the difference, because it won't just save you money, it could save your life. You're welcome. So with that, let's look at the rest of this thread here and see some of those common interactions when you ever get to this tube versus pipe mini universe. Okay, tube, but you won't catch me being pedantic. This is correct. It's also not pedantic, because you see, pedantic is synonymous with disapproving, and it means overly concerned with small, often unimportant technical details. But the difference between tube and pipe is important, it's not minor, and now I'm being pedantic, so let's move on. It's a difference worth knowing. Pipe is for fluid, tube is for structure. Wrong. You could use either for either one. The difference is in your last statement. Tube is measured by its OD. Correct. Pipe is measured by the ID. Is it though? Is it measured by the ID? More on that later. You're absolutely correct. Wrong. Right up until 14-inch, then pipe is flipped and measured by its OD. I don't know why they do this. This is true. It does flip at 14 inches. So true, but very confusing. More on that later. It's very early for me. Is this nomenclature also true for silicone tubing? And yes, no one's giving you right information. Yes, you can use tubes for fluid. And yes, silicone tubing follows the rules of tubing. So, even on the Ask Engineers subreddit, where you would assume there'd be a lot of engineers who should know this difference, still kind of get it wrong. So if you're a pipe welder, pipe fitter, purchaser, planner, professional engineer, or just a person who's interested in tube and pipe, it's a distinction worth knowing. Let's get into it. And as Joel Eiffel, the tube dude, I should know. Oh man, I just realized I set myself up with a name like Tube Dude. I probably sound biased against pipe. Also, I probably need to know the difference. Good thing I do. Let's get into it. Getting into it, tube is easy to define. It is measured by its outside diameter and its wall thickness. If you want the inside diameter, you just subtract the wall thickness. There you go. Logical, easy to understand, devoid of human emotions. So for example, if you have 1-inch tube with 0.1-inch wall, it would be 1 inch on the OD, it would have 1.1-inch wall, and the ID would be 0.8 inches. Pretty simple. That's all there is to it. Let's switch over to pipe. Hold on here. Pipe is a dimensionless standard, which states that the outside dimension for a given pipe size will stay the same, the wall thickness will be determined by a schedule, and the inside diameter is nominally what it's called. So 1-inch pipe, for example, is, So 1-inch pipe is 1.315 on the OD. It has 0.179 wall. The ID is 0.957. I guess that's kind of close enough to 1 inch. There you go. Semantics, Joel here. See, nominal means in name only, and in engineering terms, it really just means they just stopped asking questions, don't think about it that much. It's nominally 1 inch, baby. Do you really care what the actual dimensions are? No, it's nominal. So to make this a mini conclusion, if you have tube, measure it by its OD and its wall thickness. If you have pipe, do what every world-class engineer does and look it up in a chart every single time. You're not going to memorize those dimensions, and they're made up anyways. If you leave the definitions here of tube and pipe, if that's all you need to know to do your job, you're probably in a good place. But there's a fascinating story of why we're still using two different systems to measure the same cylindrical tubular objects here. So if you want to know why pipe comes in schedules, and you want to know how this could save you money and possibly save you your life, you're welcome. Let's talk about the history of tube and pipe schedules. interesting fact about manufacturing is that we've been building things for the entire length of human history. That means for a lot of processes, we have these old words that have just stuck around and carry through to modern manufacturing, but you probably never questioned where the word came from. Bevel, fillet, and pipe. We even have some fictitious terms that have stuck around, like on schedule, on budget. To break down pipe here, we have to travel back in time, woo, to the 1800s. As iron and later steel started to explode in uses, canals, steam engines, water pipes, you had to start standardizing the sizes, or else things just wouldn't fit together, right? And this happened all the time back then. So the industry came together to invent the IPS, iron pipe sizes. And since pipe was originally kind of used for water, steam, fluids, back in the 1800s without calculators, knowing the inside diameter was probably a good thing because it helped you do your fluid flow calculations, how much water was in a mile-long pipe. So that's where the IPS system came apart. And in the great year of 1862, there's this little thing called the Civil War going on in the US. And at that time, there was an engineer out of Philadelphia, really interesting guy named Robert Briggs. And he was saying, wait a second, we're all using the IPS system, but the pipe's not interchangeable from one foundry to the other. So he got all the steel mills in the Philadelphia area together, and we don't have a recording of this, but I'm pretty sure he said something like, make it all the same.
Same.
And convenient to Robert Briggs, he suggested that they use the pipe dies at the Pascal foundry where he worked, which was probably an economic win. This is like the original lightning cable versus USB-C war, and clearly Robert Briggs and his pipe dies won. And this was known as the Briggs system, and later it would morph into what we call as NPS, or nominal pipe sizes. So in the great year of 1939, during the Great Depression, engineers were getting depressed because they didn't have enough pipe schedules.
I'm depressed. I wish I had more pipe sizes.
That's why they call it the Great Depression. So this little organization called ASA, the American Standards Association, now we know them as ANSI, they got together because they were getting antsy that the engineers didn't have enough pipe schedules. And that's when they came out with the nominal pipe schedule, NPS. This is what we use to this day. NPS carried over the iron pipe sizes, but filled in a lot of the missing holes and gaps. Wall schedules and NPS are actually a nifty formula that's just a simple ratio. We're going to take the service pressure divided by the allowable stress in the material times 1,000, so the numbers aren't really, really small, and that gets you a wall schedule. And if you want a stronger pipe, you just go up in wall schedule, starting at schedule 5, and going to schedule 116 and beyond. And don't worry for you IPS lovers, that didn't go away. Standard strength became schedule 40, extra strong became schedule 80, and extra strength, well, it was kind of too cool, man, for labels, so it just hangs out somewhere around schedule 160. More on that later. So now, up to now, you're probably saying, hey, Joel, this system makes a decent amount of sense. We got the same outside diameter, so our pipe wrenches and flanges all work together. And then we have a nominal ID that we're going to kind of label everything of. And we have a wall schedule based on a mechanical strength ratio. Like, hey, pretty straightforward. And here's where the accumulated weight of almost 200 years of using a nominal system from the 1800s starts to just fall apart. Oh my, where should we start? Let's do it rapid fire. Engineer Briggs was concerned with 0 to 4 inch pipe systems. So when they created NPS, they expanded those numbers, made them a little bit closer to nominal, and as they keep on getting bigger and bigger, they keep on getting more and more issues. More on that. So extra strength is thicker, therefore stronger than schedule 160 from an 1/8 inch to 6 inch. But once you get over 6 inches, it flip-flops now, and schedule 160 is stronger. I have no clue why. Make it make sense. Because the outside diameter always stays the same, pipe schedule, i.e. the wall thickness, changes the ID. Therefore, that nominal ID essentially never matches the actual inner diameter. So if you have any level of precision, you're gonna have to go look it up in a book anyways, because nominally 1 inch is not great when the actual pipe is 0.957 inches, and that's still pretty close. Some of the pipe schedules are egregiously off in the ID. Different MPS schedules can have the same ID, you know, the thing they're nominally being measured on. So 2-inch schedule 30 and 2.5 inch schedule 160 both have the same ID of 2 1/8 inches. Good thing neither of those are 2 or 2.5 inches, but they're the same. That's kind of confusing. Oh no. Because wall thickness keeps on growing as you get into larger and larger sizes, 12-inch pipe, which is actually 12.75 on the OD, is the last time they use this system. When you go over to 14, they switch over to tubing dimensions. So 14-inch pipe is 14 inches on the OD. 12-inch pipe is 12.75 inches. Even the pipe schedule people admit that this system is silly and breaks down. You're welcome. Are you less confused now? All these oddities I could work around until we got to this. Wait, hold on, let me grab it. This is 1-inch schedule. I actually don't know the schedule. It's not labeled. This is 1-inch stainless steel pipe. This is where all the issues just start compounding. Remember how earlier I said pipe wall schedules were based on a ratio?
I'm going to take the service pressure divided by the allowable stress in the material.
Well, common grades of stainless steel are stronger than the common grades of carbon steel you would use in pipe. That means for the same amount of pressure, you need thinner walls in stainless steel, which means you got to change your schedules. But to help you out, I'm going to put this down. But to help you out, they made it easy. Below 12 inches, carbon steel and stainless steel pipe schedules are the same. Above 12 inches, they actually differ. And to help you out, they'll put a little S on the charts. So now you'll see Schedule 40 and Schedule 40S. Nifty. What this means though, is that you have two things you're gonna commonly refer to as like 16-inch Schedule 40, but their dimensions are gonna change. And as I said earlier, different schedules can have the same ID. So where does that leave us? Whoo! Okay, 16-inch Schedule 30, Schedule Standard, and Schedule 40S all have the same wall thickness, 3/8 of an inch. 16-inch Schedule 40 carbon steel has a different wall thickness. Also, 18-inch Schedule 120 has a different wall thickness, but the same ID of 15.25 inches. So now the nominal thing these things are measured on come in two different sizes. 3 sizes share the same dimensions, and the ones that match a name, both called 16-inch Schedule 40, have different dimensions. Are you confused yet? Because you should be. But Joel, what about copper? Oh my God. Let's talk about copper tube pipe. Copper pipe also uses schedules. This time they use letters KLM. No relation to the airline, but it would have been cool if there was. K being the lightest and M being the heaviest. Oh, also don't forget there's DWV, which is drain waste vent, and there's also medical grade. No clue about it, but it's also there. So in any case, there's only 5 schedules, not too bad. So just like in the NPS system, copper pipe uses a similar nomenclature for their schedule. You're gonna measure the nominal ID, you're gonna have a wall thickness from your schedules, and your OD is gonna stay the same for a given nominal size so that your fittings, your pipe wrenches, they all work together. And to maybe help you, maybe make it a little bit less confusing, while the OD is always off, it's always exactly off by 1/8 of an inch. So 1/2-inch copper pipe Schedule L is actually 5/8 an OD, and all that copper pipe is known as the CTS, or copper tube size system. Yes, that's a little confusing. What is commonly known as copper pipe is measured by the copper tube system, but it's copper pipe, hence copper tube system. Just let that marinate for a second. Clarity. And I know what you might be saying, well, hey Joel, that's not so bad. Copper pipe just kind of follows the MPS naming system, right? Right? Oh my God, in comes copper ACR tube. Oh no. HVAC and refrigeration uses the ACR system, which stands for air conditioning and refrigeration. I'm not really sure who won that HVAC ACR acronym war, but there you go. Now, ACR, being the good boy that it is, uses a tube dimensioning system, so the actual OD is the OD, and the actual wall thickness is the wall thickness, and there you go. That's all I have to explain. Pretty straightforward. Little side note, in copper you also have annealed, called soft tubing, and rigid or drawn, often called hard tubing. But there you go. That's all there is to it. ACR, you're a good boy. But to both help you and confuse you, CTS Schedule L pipe and ACR tubing share the same dimensions. They're the same thing. That means the same physical dimensions with two different naming sizes that are in use at the same time. If you walk into that big box store and you ask for 1/2" Schedule L copper pipe, then you turn back in and you walk in and you ask for 5/8 ACR tube, they're gonna hand you the same piece of tube pipe because they often dual certify the material. And now there's some minor differences between ACR tube and pipe, but they share the same dimensions. Is this making any sense to you? If I tell you to grab the 1/2" copper pipe, are you grabbing 1/2" copper pipe using the copper tube sizing system? Are you grabbing 1/2" copper tube using the ACR system? Or are you grabbing 5" ACR tube, which happens to share the same dimensions as 1/2" copper pipe that uses the copper tube sizing system? Boy, does this cause a lot of mistakes. And I think what's particularly just egregious about this is that homes have copper water pipes. Homes also have HVAC and refrigeration systems. So if you walk into that big box store, they're gonna put the copper tube next to the copper pipe. And they just expect that every handyman, every weekend warrior, just everyone buying this is gonna intrinsically know that copper pipe is an 1/8 off on its diameters and copper tube has the actual correct outside diameter, but they're gonna be next to each other. And so if you measure something in your house, you could easily grab the wrong one. Oh my gosh, people spend a lot of money making this mistakes, and plumbers probably scoff and laugh a lot because when they open up walls, they're gonna find copper tube, even though it probably should have been copper pipe. The copper pipe systems are just causing havoc, folks. They just sow chaos wherever they go in tubular form. But Joel, what about the metric system? I don't like this anymore. I'm starting to get tired. Metric pipe, they use ISO standard 6708. They also call it DN, which stands for dimension nominal, which means, oh shoot, let me look that up. Dimension nominal is French for nominal dimension. Huh. Metric was supposed to be the chosen one, and I think they just gave up because just take the NPS sizes and multiply it by 25 because I guess 25 millimeters are roughly an inch. Right, guys? Right, guys? 25 millimeters to an inch. Why not? ISO pipe also has a nominal measuring system. The numbers just don't matter at this point. I feel like ISO just copied ASTM's homework and turned it in late, and they just kind of gave up on even trying to have this stuff make sense. But Joel, what about aluminum pipe? Will this ever end? Aluminum pipe just follows NPS pipe schedules, even though that stress calculation ratio formula now doesn't make sense. Whatever. I don't see a lot of aluminum pipe anyways. It's stupid, but it exists. Most people just use aluminum tube. But Joel, what about PVC pipe? Just stop. Just stop. Common sense is already dead. I don't like this. I don't like this anymore. PVC pipe, I'm not even gonna try. It uses a bunch of different systems. Some of them match NPS, most of them don't. If you want to do it, do what the world-class people do and just look it up in a chart. Just stop. I'm tired. Oh boy. So to break this all down to you, where does that leave us? Just to refresh. Pipe systems were based on schedules. These schedules came from the 1800s. Different industries had different uses in mind, so they all made their own different piping schedules for their uses. Now, 200 years later, we're just living in the ghosts and shadows of people who named something in the 1800s. Tube, on the other hand, is still the same. It is the outside dimension, it is the wall thickness that is precise, accurate, and logical. To use anything else in 2026 just doesn't make a lot of sense. Tube is like freeform jazz, baby. It's just telling you what dimensions are. You can make tube in any size you want. If you want to make 1.69 inch tube with 420 wall, you could do it. Be pretty cool. Not stopping you. Some people say tube is more precise, but really I think that's just because piping is so imprecise and weird that anything else is just logical in comparison. Since other materials, you know, aluminum, titanium, silicone, those came out later on in the 20th century and in the 21st century, it didn't make sense to carry through these pipe schedules, so pretty much any modern material is going to use tube dimensioning. So it's your silicone tubings, pretty much all flexible tubing, acrylic, carbon fiber, but not PVC. It still uses pipe. Yeehaw. Any type of little like kind of rule of thumb, like pipe is for fluid, tube is for structure. No. Tube and pipe are cylindrical objects. They have mechanical properties. You can use them for different reasons. A lot of them had some use in mind when they were created, but you wouldn't build a bridge out of surgical tubing, and you probably don't put water in drill pipe. Wait, is that true? But pipe is used for structural applications, and tube can carry fluid, and I think all those little rules of thumb are more confusing than they are helpful. So I've been talking a lot about how crazy pipe is and how, wow, it can be confusing. And I know it's confusing because multiple times in my career, I've seen, you know, huge, colossal mistakes that have cost thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars of people getting the difference between tube and pipe confused, or even within pipe itself. To just give one example, I was working at a place that we did a decent amount of work in stainless steel. We mostly use stainless steel pipe because it matches the carbon steel. Again, most stuff is going to be below 12 inches. You know, 2 to 8 inches was the vast majority of what we're doing. But every once in a while, we got some really big stuff, including doing some 14, I think it's like 14 to 20 inch stainless steel pipe. To save money, we would make our own ASME flanges here. These are kind of common flanges you'll see out in the piping industry. You can look up the dimensions in the book. The engineer, he went and looked at the dimension to make these flanges for these 14 and above inch stainless steel pipes. And maybe you can see where this is going. He grabbed the carbon steel flange dimensions, which again at these sizes don't match the stainless steel pipe sizes. And we machined 2 3-foot diameter flanges, 3-4 inches thick out of 304 316 stainless steel, only to find out the dimensions don't match our stainless steel pipe. They called me as a welding engineer. I'm saying, yo, you have a qualified procedure. You just can't have these walls mismatching. And because of the geometry, the material is already removed. You could not put that material back. You had to scrap out all these flanges, go make new ones. It took us a lot of time and money. And the engineer, who was a smart guy, he's like, dude, I don't get it. I've designed and spec'd a lot of flanges, and in every case, the carbon steel and the stainless steel flanges are the same. Why would I have to think that when I look up Schedule 40 above 12 inches, I should just assume that the flange dimensions change from carbon steel to stainless steel? And frankly, stainless steel pipe in those dimensions are so rare anyways, it's not like people are tripping over to explain this to you every single day. We also find plenty of stories of people on the internet buying thousands of feet of copper pipe, or copper tube, it shows up on the work site and it's the wrong thing. And these mistakes happen all the time, and I really don't blame people for not understanding the difference. You grab the wrong one, you spec the wrong one, you show up as the welders and fabricators, you just make it work, and then months to minutes later, the whole thing explodes. And I know this is a lighthearted video, but people have died because someone spec tube instead of pipe, someone installed pipe instead of tube, someone grabbed the wrong size because when something said 1 inch nominally, no dimension is 1 inch, but that was a pretty reasonable assumption to make, one would think. We live in a world where you have a tubular thing that has two different naming schemas. One makes perfect sense. One says the wrong thing all the time, is all colloquial, none of the numbers make sense, and they're used at the same time, but they're not interchangeable. And as you can see, the difference between tube and pipe is not a semantic distinction. It actually matters. So if I seem a little hard on pipe schedules, it's because I really don't think they're a good system. And I want to go into some of the technical reasons why. I'll start on the quality side. Kind of a common principle in any engineering quality system, or any quality system for that matter, is alleviate confusion wherever possible. And one of the simple rules is don't call the same thing different things, and don't call different things the same thing. So having a system where you can have Schedule 40 or Schedule 40S be different things, and then systems in copper ACR tube and pipe where Schedule L copper pipe and ACR tube are the same thing dimensionally, but they're measured differently, creates unnecessary confusion that causes real life accidents and catastrophes. I want you to think about this from a dimensional standpoint. Like, there's only two dimensions you need to fully define tube or pipe. It's the outside diameter and it's the wall thickness. And in fact, pipe schedules actually use the outside diameter in their technical definition, but then they give you a nominal inside diameter that's not even right. Like, come on, we don't do this with any other material, angle iron, square tubing. We don't just use nominal systems. Are you really saving time when you have to look it all up in a book anyways? Is it really a good shortcut to say, yeah, I guess this is about 1 inch? Like, come on. We're using more syllables to describe a two-dimension thing. Like, just really, it only takes 2 dimensions to properly label a tube. It just feels ridiculous to me. So where does that leave us here? How do we go forward? The good news is I have a solution. It's incredibly cheap. It's super easy. Guys, I'm not even asking you to give up pipe and give up those sweet, tasty pipe dimensions. Please keep them. You ready for the solution? All you have to do is start dimensioning pipe like you dimension tube. It's not 1 inch pipe, it's 1.315 inch tube with 0.179 wall. There you go. Was that so much harder than 1 inch Schedule 40 pipe? Frankly, it's about the same amount of syllables anyways. One of the arguments is that, hey, NPS is a standard. Standards do serve good purposes in defining other quality metrics, tolerances, ovality, all these other requirements. And you know what? That's great. All you have to do is call it tube something. You could call it professional grade tube, pressure grade tube, engineering grade tube. We already do this. We have surgical grade tubing. We have sanitary tubing, aerospace grade aluminum, mil spec material. Keep a standard, just don't call it pipe and dimension it off of a nominal dimension. It doesn't make sense. Whew, what a journey. In conclusion for all of this, tube is simple, it's beautiful, it's logical, it just makes sense. pipe is a mismatch, is a whole bunch of stuff. None of it makes sense. All the rules are just made up anyways. ASTM, ANSI, ISO, you could end this madness tomorrow. Just stop calling things pipe. It does not help anyone. If I could take away one lesson for all you guys, just double check. Check the context, check the drawing, ask around. Just say, do you want tube? Do you want pipe? Hopefully this advice saved you some money, maybe even saved your life. I'm Joyful the Tube Dude. Have a nice night or day. You know what? Keep it tubular. Woo! What a stupid system. And so, to sum it all up, after all this time, I decided to go back to the original post and inject a little truth and reason. And now I can sleep well at night knowing at least one less fact is incorrect on the internet. I'm Joyful the Tube Dude, and that's the difference between tube or pipe. And post.